first reading this morning is from the book of Psalms, chapters 71, verses 1 through 6. Lord my God, I take refuge in you. Save and deliver me from all who pursue me, or will tear me apart like a lion and rip me into pieces with no one to rescue me. Lord my God, if I have done this and there is guilt on my hands, if I have repaid my ally with evil or without cause, have robbed my foe, then let my enemy pursue and overtake me. Let him trample my life to the ground and make me sleep in the dust. Arise, Lord, in your anger. Arise up against the rages of my enemy. Awake, my God, decree justice. Our second reading comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 13. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and cannot fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith and can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and go over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I am nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perceives. Love never fails, but when there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, that when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of a childhood behind me. For now, we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Blessed is the word of the Lord.
David, thank you so much for reading these words. When David was reading, did your mind wander off like to weddings? Because the reading Dave just read from the first Corinthians, from Paul's letters to the Corinthians, is the most popular reading, scripture readings at weddings. And maybe you remember your own wedding, the beautiful dress, flowers everywhere, and it was perfect. The most perfect day you ever dreamt of. And then you wonder, why do we read this reading on a cold, gray January morning? Because we can't get enough of love. And love is much more than the cutesy little hearts, and nothing against hearts and nothing against cutesy, and nothing against Valentine's Day, and I'm so excited for the Valentine's Day talent show. But love is so much more than the cherubs with the arrows, and the cute little love notes, and the Valentines at school parties. Love is tricky, and love is so difficult. And that's why we need to hear about it over and over and over and over again. Paul wrote this letter to the Corinthians not because he wanted to have the perfect reading for our weddings. He didn't know that more than 2,000 years later, people would use that as they were coming down the aisle and two families were joined. He wrote the letters to the church in Corinth because they needed to hear it. They needed to hear as a bunch of people how you act as a bunch of people with different backgrounds socioeconomic relationships, and just being together. Last week, we heard what it means that everybody has different gifts and how we all come in together, join and share and build one union as the church, because we are more than the sum of individuals. And in this time of Epiphany, our sermon series is called Love Never Ends. And of course, this passage of Corinthians just fits perfectly, even when it's still January. This is the reading, the suggested reading for the fourth Sunday in Epiphany, and you see our beautiful altarscape or tablescape for what it could look like when love never ends. Corinth was a merchant town in the south of Greece, a harbor town with the good, bad, and the ugly. A lot of traffic going all directions. Lots of people, lots of background, lots and lots of issues. A huge town and bubbling up with whatever cultures they are. In this church Paul wrote to, Paul is basically telling them, if you want to be a people of love, of God's love, then you have to share your love in how you are. But what is love? We use it in so many different contexts. When we write our letters, Rev Sigrid as the last line, or we address our dear ones as, hi, love, could you please do this for me? What is love? In English, we have one word, love, 4 easy letters. In the Greek, in the New Testament language, there are many, many words, and the most common word is agape, which is used about 250 times in a small little book, mostly used by Paul in his letters to the Romans and to the Corinthians, the book we are writing. And in the Gospels, you find it mostly in John's Gospel. And one of the most favorite, you probably have seen it in the football stands, John 3:16. God so loved the world. That is the love we're talking about. About 250 times. A noun, the love, and the verb to love. But what does it mean? How do we love one another? How do we do that? Well, God is love. That is what I am convinced of. And as we have seen and as we have read earlier on in our prayers, God is love, and therefore we love. I think that's what the gospel can be all boiled down to one sentence. God is love, therefore we love. Very, very easy. No complicated words whatsoever. If I have that sentence, God is love, comma, therefore we love, I'm going to chunk it down because I need sometimes chunks in order for me to sink it into my brain. God is love. We all agree on that? God is love. That is the God I believe in through all the New Testament as well as the Old Testament, the God of Scripture. Our God is a God of love. And Jesus Christ is God's manifestation. Or in Jesus Christ, God came to us as a human being. Jesus is God's love represented, lived amongst us, with all the good, bad, and ugly, what every person can go through. Because of that, we, as followers of Jesus, are asked, are demanded to love others. Sounds easy. So therefore, because I believe God is love, so therefore I love, I could probably, if my neighbor is going to go out of town, the neighbor across the street, I said, okay, I water your plants while you're gone. Not a problem. I bring the mail in. Easy. Okay, I did my love. What about bringing over to my neighbor who's suffering with COVID a homemade meal, even though the neighbor voted differently at the last election. Is that love? Because love can be tricky. What about that person, I'm driving just my way, obeying the speed limit, and then somebody cuts me off? How do I love that person? With my anger inside me building up. Or what about the person who comes from a different country, has a different religion? I was so pleased to experience on Thursday, thank you so much, Heather, for organizing, how many people showed up at the airport with their welcome sign for the Mormon family with 6 boys. And when I saw them, they're the boys coming down, this must be them. I felt the goosebumps, and I felt tears welling up in my eyes, and the smile behind my mask. I've never met these people before, but here we are. We are showing love to people who we don't even know. So thank you so much for organizing that. How does love even look like in our own neighborhood? I want to share with you an example. I have 2 friends. They are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. They have been married for more than 10 years. They are loving and lovely and the most wonderful neighbors you can ever imagine. They would do anything for you. They care, and they just show their love by being who they are. They're not members of a church because they got so hurt. Here are the names. Nico comes from a big, big family, and it's not his real name. From a huge, huge family. And of course, they went to church every single Sunday. And he still remembers how he was hurt because of who he was. Ron grew up in West Virginia. His grandparents took him to church every single Sunday. And it's just going to church was just what you did with Grandpa and Grandma. They just pick you up on Sunday morning, bring you to church, drop you off, and sometimes you might just even go out for brunch afterwards. And again, he came out. The place where he was thinking was giving him love the most shunned him. Those people never went back. A good friend of mine. And so we don't talk about religion, we talk about everything and everything. At some point, religion came up. They know where I work and what I do for a living. And they shared with me, and it was late in the evening. We were just sitting there and chatting about their experiences. And my heart broke. What they shared with me, all what I can do was listen. And I felt anger, disappointment, furious inside me. All what I can think of was 1 Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 13. And they were sharing and talking. All what I could do was listen and say how sorry I am for you, for your pain. And thank you for sharing, and thank you for being so open to me. And yes, I could have invited them here and said, look, we are so different. We are open and affirming. Just come through these doors and you will see love. But I know they won't, because they got so hurt. They will never put their foot across that threshold of the church because of all the hurt they had in the past. However, our relationship continued, and our talks and our chats and cooking together and going out together and kayaking together and biking together and laughing together and crying together. They shared more. I invited them to church events. Guess what? They came, and they had a great time. They laughed, they enjoyed company, and they enjoyed you. So thank you for sharing your love with them. And you have no idea how much it meant for them. First of all, for them to dare to come to an event where they didn't know anybody, but also from the church, a place and people with all the baggage from the past. But you did what you always do. You opened your heart, and you loved, and we had a good time, and it was wonderful. Are they going to join here? Probably not. But that's not important for me. For me, it was important how you took them in, how you shared your love with people you have never known, and probably might never see on a Sunday morning, but how you cared and how you loved. And then our conversations continued, and our relationship deepened. And even more, they shared even more about themselves. So it went from kind of superficial over here to really, really deep. And I'm so grateful that you were there for them, that you shared who you are. Because through you, God has done a miracle in their lives. Experiencing people of faith, people of love, who just, because it's in our genes, this is who we are, who we want to be. When we say we love you, we care for you, whoever you are, whatever journey you have had. So I want to thank you for that. Yes, I'm still in a relationship with these people. They're wonderful, delightful, delightful, delightful couple. Again, it doesn't matter to me that they know that they will never join. But it matters to me that they have experienced through you God at work. So thank you for that. Because God has opened a little door. Or maybe not a door, just a little window. And that window might get wider and wider and wider. And through you, they have experienced 1 Corinthians 13. In this chapter, we read about love 9 times, and especially the last sentence. Now these 3 remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Thank you.